Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the season finale, season 2 of Unplugged with Ross. My name is Roslyn Miner. Always a pleasure to have you here. Tonight, we're having a very interesting discussion. It's a festive season, so how do you wish to show up? And I am joined by Dr. Neema Araka. Dr. Neema Araka is a double board certified psychiatrist. She is the founder of Vitahi Clinic and a respected mental health leader. She's also a lecturer at Mount Kenya University, shaping future mental health talent, and also serves as a consultant liaison psychiatrist at That Park Hospital and the Comprehensive Diabetes Clinic, providing crucial support for people managing chronic conditions that impact quality of life. So today is authentically festive or not. Permission to show up as you are. Doc, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Roslyn. Good evening, everyone.
Such a pleasure to have you here, Doc. And yes, as we were speaking before we went live, tonight's discussion is comes closer home because a lot of people, it's the festive season, and a lot of people struggle with what does festive mean and how can I be myself authentically. So to start us out, I will, I mean, I will be posing through questions, and people are welcome to share their questions on the chat. Feel free to send them through. Any questions or concerns you might have, please send them through and we will address them as we go. So, on to our first question. Many people assume the festive season is joyful for everyone. Why do you think this perception exists, and how can we challenge it in a healthy way?
I think the perception is sort of built in us through our upbringing. So, depending on the environment that you're raised in, you're told what festivity is and how to behave, how to dress, how to talk, how to feel during the festivities. And so you grow up learning from that before you can start, making your own mind about whether or not you like it, which comes much, much later.
Yeah.
And I think this would be now maybe culturally and maybe in specific families or family setups. But then I think the one that has the largest effect is the commercial source. I mean, the festivities are so commercialized that any mall you go to right now is Christmassy.
Yeah.
And this started in November, late November. And then you've got these Black November, the sale that goes on with the Christmas decorations and so I think that one really shapes the environment around you. And
Yeah.
sometimes the environment around you can influence the environment within you. And so, largely, I would think those two, how you are brought up, and then the way the commercial industry presents Christmas to us, or the holiday season.
Yeah.
Yes. The second question is how can we challenge it in a healthy way? This is very interesting. I think you're looking at my internal environment, yes, and how I'm feeling during that particular time, and where I am externally in that environment. And if I'm feeling festive inside and it's festive outside, then there's a harmony there. And
Yeah.
so I feel in place. All right. But if I'm going to Sarit, I'm very sad, I'm going through a heartbreak, I'm going through loss or grief. And before I even get there, you've got all the decorations, shouting festivities and joy. something is going to happen to me because I'm going to experience the disharmony between the way I'm feeling inside and the way the environment around me is behaving, right? And it's very important for me to acknowledge that. I think that's one way to be healthy about, to acknowledge the incongruence between how you're feeling inside, what's going on in your life that no one really knows about, and what's going on around you. Acknowledging that, and then finding a way then to tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to Surrey to get the, I use Surrey because it's just near me. I'm sure there are many, I know there are many malls, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you go there with the discomfort, but you're aware what the discomfort is that I'm not festive, I'm not in a festive mood, but I need to get the milk, I need to get the groceries, I need to get this, I need to get my mobile fixed, whatever it is that you've gone to do to the mall, you get it done and you go back home. But as you're there, I would say it's the attitude you develop, and this attitude can either be a bridge or a wall, in the sense that you can allow those things that are happening in your environment to influence your emotional state or your mood at a
Yeah.
particular time, or you can close yourself off such that when you're walking, you can see when people are walking, they avoid eye contact. Like, either they're on their phone, and there are many reasons why people do that, yeah. And you might find that one of them, the one that's really focused on either where they're going or they're looking down, is because they just want to get what they want to get and get back home. Like
Yeah.
they don't want to be influenced by the environment, yeah. And so then that perpetuates whatever feeling that you have. It keeps it going until you go back home and you continue feeling it. Another person might choose to, okay, let me just allow myself to be open to, what the environment offers. And so you might find them looking at the shop, and then they might have eye contact, and then you might see them talking, and it might actually change how they experience they're going to the mall.
Yeah.
So in a healthy way, I would say the first thing is to acknowledge how you're feeling internally, what's going on inside you, and then the environment in which you find yourself in, and examine what's going to happen there. Is there going to be harmony, congruence, or is there going to be incongruence? And then be able then to respond to that state.
Now, interestingly, I mean, I remember when I was growing up, when it was around the festive season, parents take us for shopping, you have new clothes for Christmas and all these things. Now, for children, there's that expectation of all things jolly and nice. For the adults, on the other hand, there's conflict because maybe you've lost your job. Maybe your company is going to have redundancies done. Maybe you form part of that list. In your mind, you're wondering, how do I need to spend for the festivities, or do I need to save up because New Year is coming, school fees is coming, but at the same time you have totos or kiddos, looking up to you. How do you balance that? Because yes, there's plenty of conflict, and based the fact that we are in Africa, the fact that we're in Kenya, we are very community, oriented. How do we, and go through that phase? And if someone is going through such a period of their life, how can we extend grace to them so that they feel that they really do not need to go too much and lose themselves, but at the same time, you're protecting the young ones from having to worry.
So if I'm getting it right, you're financially constrained
Yeah.
and festivities demand that you spend more.
I mean, historically, that's how we deem festivities. It's spending. It's a lot
Yes,
of monetary spend that is coming through.
right.
Yeah.
So you want to be aware of the circumstances you're in. So you want to be aware of the financial constraint and the implications that has in your life in that particular moment, either in the short term or long term. And when you're aware, then you want to look at what your desires demand from those financial constraints, right? And you want to look at where these desires are coming from. If the desire is to satisfy your own need, then you want to see how much of the finances can allow you to express those desires if they satisfy you. And so the motivation for the desire becomes really important. But if the desire is to show yourself off to other people at the off chance that that might give you satisfaction, so the probability of you being happy, it depends on someone else validating or approving, the way that you spend on Christmas. Then that's a big gamble, right?
Absolutely.
And so these new clothes that you're buying, if you're only buying them because you want so and so to see that you can buy new clothes, such that if that so and so doesn't show up or is not present as your kids wear these new clothes, then you get really disappointed. Or you get disappointed twice. One, that you spent the money, and two, that the satisfaction you're hoping to get, you did get. If it's hiring a car, I've been seeing this on TikTok, yeah? People are hiring cars to go to the rural area to show off. And the amount they're spending on the car is actually the fees for the next year. And the car doesn't even make them happy. It's just to show other people. So if you're driven by that motivation, then you really want to ask yourself, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, people live life differently. If you feel that it's worth it, that it's worth me showing off and sacrificing, the fees for next year for my daughter, then you'll go ahead and do it. And you might find some satisfaction in that. So your motivation for doing these things, for spending money that you probably don't have, is really important, because money comes and goes.
Yeah.
The value of money is what you make it to be. Me and you can be given 1,000 shillings right now, and it will mean different things to us in this particular moment. And if you give us that same 1,000 2 months from now, it will also mean two different things.
True. Very true.
Yes. So the driving motivation for spending money you don't have is really key. Yeah. Because the other thing you're looking at is life is not permanent,
True.
So there are people who might go by the philosophy that I might be here today, I might not be here tomorrow. And so the money I have today, it's mine, so let me spend it. And they're not
Yeah.
wrong thinking that way. And another one thinks, I have to think about retirement, I have to think about the future. So they're more hopeful about the longevity. And so for them, they're going to be very frugal, perhaps,
Yes.
with their spending,
Cautious.
cautious with their spending, right?
Yeah.
And each of them has a point, because life can be both ways. It can be really short or it can be really long.
True. True. So I think the main thing here is to be very clear of where you are internally, and
Yes, and
then do what's right for you, not for others. Do what's
if
right for you.
that's the thing. If what's right is for others,
True. True. Okay. Next question. Christmas is predominantly, the festive season often centers around Christmas traditions. How can people of different religions or belief systems feel included, and how can we make this season more welcoming for everyone?
so this one will answer. I'll give my part, but I'll need
Yeah.
some information from you.
Yeah.
Traditionally, was Christmas meant to be inclusive? Traditionally,
I dare say yes, but
okay.
I know it can also be contentious in this respect. But ideally, Christmas is universal. It is for
Right.
everyone.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, I believe we need to appreciate, other religions, other people that, define their calendars differently. But everyone
Yeah.
needs to feel included, because not everyone is enjoying all the lights in the shopping malls, or all the Christmas carols that are blaring left, right, and center. But everyone should feel the joy. The joy of the festive season is universal. So how can we not be all up? For example, I, as a Christian, how can I make it as welcoming and as inclusive as possible to all other friends and people that are around me that might not be Christians, and they feel, the joy of the festive season?
Um, I might come from a place where I've experienced more effort to
Yeah.
include others. For example, schools, before they close, they tend to have Christmas celebration, and it's for all children. Some
Yeah.
schools, they make it part of the curriculum. They even do the plays. I think for the kids, they do the nativity play. I'm not quite sure what the whole story is.
Yeah.
I think in the commercial space as well, the offers are for everyone. It's not
Yes.
for Christians to celebrate
Specific.
Christmas. And I
Exactly.
think that does make you feel included. Carrefour has these large, big sales, right? Very
Yes.
good offers, and everyone can benefit from that. What else? How do they? So I think I'm coming from experience where there's a lot of inclusion.
Yeah.
I might, I'm trying to find, I can't, even in offices, they do parties where
Yeah.
all employees, all the staff come together to that party and no one feels left out. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's already a lot of effort, but I could be wrong, to make Christmas universal. That's ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you think of
No,
one? Do you know what that? Yeah.
actually, I agree with the perspective you're giving. I think
Yeah.
maybe what would come to mind is, for example, states that are predominantly of other religions. So obviously,
Mm,
it will not be as big as we have it here in Kenya, but
right.
absolutely the joy of the festive season,
Mm,
regardless if it is Christmas or, for example, Eid, when Eid is there, it is, universal, or even Diwali is universal. It's only that in some cases, the Christmas period it's huge in some states compared to others. But
mm.
yeah, the joy of that festivity is what reigns at that moment in time.
Yes, also the language. Now that you're talking, the language also is very inclusive. I see a shift where people go from Merry Christmas to Happy Holidays. Like
Yeah.
it's more generalized than fixed on the holy day, which then would attach itself very strongly to Christianity.
Yeah.
But yeah, happy festivities, happy holidays, the general terms really allow other people as well to feel like it's everyone's holiday. Yeah.
Yes. True. Absolutely. All right. On to the next question. What does it mean to be authentic during the holiday season? Now, that can be defined in very many ways. Maybe what I can do is provide examples. So,
Mm,
African contest.
yeah.
A lot of families will come together. Maybe they have a family get together, and they are the aunties who will be quick to ask all the singles, when are you getting married? Or if you're married, they'll be asking you, when are you having baby? There are those where you're coming from a dysfunctional family. So the joy or the whole bliss about the festive season. Sorry about that, but
Sorry, I think that's me. Sorry, sorry.
not to worry.
Uh-huh.
So there are those that will come from a dysfunctional family and they
Wait,
do
you're
not know.
you're asking me about authentic.
Yes. What
Ah,
does it
okay.
mean to be authentic during the this holiday season? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm
Uh-huh.
giving examples of the different personas that will be thriving or are there this moment in time. The
Right.
those that are single and by choice, but you have that family auntie who will be very quick to ask you, when are you getting married? Or
Mm-hmm.
you're married and not, in a hurry to start a family, so they'll be there, when are you having kids? There are
Yeah.
those that are coming from a dysfunctional family, and whenever they come together, it's more war than togetherness. So it doesn't feel, you actually don't feel the bond or the love. Okay. And then
Mm.
those who may be grieving, that those again, maybe you've lost your job, maybe you're even working during the festive season. So everyone is coming from a different, they have a different mindset when it comes to the holiday season. So what does being authentic mean? I mean, what would we say being authentic in this holiday season? What would it be?
It's a loaded word. Essentially, is that the way you think, the way you feel are in alignment. So there is harmony again. Right now, that's how my brain is working, like think what I'm thinking. And the way that I'm trying to say, that's authentic. An environment that also receives that appropriately, proportionately. That's authenticity. Now, being in a dysfunctional family or going through grief, festivity, I vary from individual to individual, especially using the example of grief. It depends on how long the loss occurred. Then you might find yourself in the acute phase of where you're overwhelmed by should be for the loss of your life, and so it's very difficult for you to experience, moments of relief where to be present to the festivity. But even when you're able to be present, sometimes you feel guilty for being present. You feel like if you're not crying, if you're feeling sad about the loss of your loved one, then you do as much. There are many ways of processing grief. So I'll go back to the first thing that we were talking about, where you want to measure the temperature of your internal state. You want to know what's going on inside you. Yes. And then you want to recognize the environment that you're in. And so if you're grieving and you find yourself in an environment where people, have carried on with their lives, they're happy, they're joyful, and that doesn't align at all, because like, how could you be laughing? I just lost my husband, or how could you be laughing? I lost my. And so if that's overwhelming for you, then you want to be able to respond to that. And sometimes responding to that might be something like excusing yourself for a few minutes. Perhaps initially during the conversation, you're able to manage. I would say you want to take this moment to moment. A lot of people forget to check the status of your mental health because they think if I checked in the morning, then I'm probably the same in the afternoon. Your state changes from minute to minute, sometimes in second to second. And so you want to, maybe in the beginning of the conversation, they were talking about something serious, maybe sad, and you felt, in place there. It's like you felt like they were grieving with you, didn't feel alone. And they started going into, joyous stuff. And then now you started feeling disconnected from them. You started feeling alone in the same crowd that you're in. And so you want to be able to acknowledge that and then to say, maybe I need to excuse myself a bit. And you go and maybe you break down, maybe you're alone, or maybe your friend follows you, you understand? And so you want to be able to respond to these moments where the waves of grief, for example, come to you, but you want to allow yourself to also continue living life as it comes to you. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you won't be, even in dysfunctional families, function is not there all the time. There are moments when there is function. Yeah. And so you want to be able to recognize those moments when there's function, and then you want to recognize those moments when the dysfunction now comes to the surface. And then what is the dysfunction? In my experience, it's hardly ever one-sided, the dysfunction, even though the narrative is that it's one-sided. Like there's one group of villains that exist in this world that for a long time never really come up, the toxic person, the abusive person. Is like they exist on their own, and I don't think they do. So when there's dysfunction, there's usually action reaction. Yeah. If you're the
Yeah.
victim, there's something that you might be doing, knowingly or unknowingly, that perpetuates or exacerbates the situation. And you want to acknowledge that. And sometimes, because it's happened for so long, and that's the story you've carried, you actually, sometimes you make it happen. like you stimulate it. It's like you're used to your parent maybe getting upset with you over Christmas because you don't listen to instructions. So unconsciously, you intentionally do that to get them started up. And then when they do, then you're like, oh yeah, Christmas will never change. She's like this. She's always going to criticize me. She's always going to correct me. Yes. And that particular time, maybe you could have done something differently. You want to. But then automatic habits, behaviors that have become habits are stronger than new behaviors that we want to start. And so, like, for example, if your mom tells you, don't, when you're making the table, yes, set the table for 9 people, add an extra chair here, but then you don't add the extra chair, and that really pisses your mom off, for example. That day you could, I mean, you had the will, you wanted to put, but something in you just told you, don't do it, just wait and see what she does. So what she
True.
does is, it's like you have a confirmation bias and you're setting your mom up to confirm it. And so your
Yeah.
mom comes, you didn't put the table. It's the same story over again. And you're like, oh, yeah, this feels familiar. And then for some reason, that feels more normal. That feels more authentic to you. That feels like Christmas to you or festive to you, that your
Yeah.
mom is shouting at you. And so I would say it's really, really important to acknowledge what's happening inside you and then to come out and see the environment that you're in and to see the factors that could be promoting what's happening inside you, if it's bad or if it's good.
Yeah.
What are the factors that are inside you that perpetuate the same set of circumstances around you? Yes, whether functional or dysfunctional.
True. I mean, so sometimes we can be the triggers behind the dysfunction that we might experience.
Absolutely.
But also, from what I understand, it's also important for someone to understand, for example, if you're going through grief, maybe it's recent or maybe it's your first festive season without your loved one, you need to embrace the grief, go through the grief, but also understand that you are not at fault to be happy. You're not at fault to laugh. You're not at fault to feel good. Just because, your loved one is no longer there, you also need to give yourself the grace to live now because you're here. So don't lose yourself based on the unfortunate, say, grief scenario that you might be going through.
Yes.
Okay. Now, how can people set boundaries with family, friends, or colleagues during a season filled with expectations? And expectations can vary. Expectations can be, maybe you're the middle child, and you live the typical story that people say that middle child is the forgotten child, or you're the black sheep, or maybe for the longest time you have been maybe financially able to support the family, but you are at a certain place where you've come to understand that you need to have the boundaries within you, but no one is going to really appreciate why you have those boundaries to begin with. So how can someone set boundaries with friends, families, colleagues during this festive season?
I want to say first that for you to want to set those boundaries, you want to be okay with being misunderstood.
Yeah,
Yes. I'm trying to examine that
that's
cry.
okay.
Okay, she's fine. To examine, yeah, like I said, if you want to set boundaries, you want to be okay with being misunderstood. Because when you're setting boundaries, you're saying, I can't tolerate this kind of treatment. You can't talk to me like that. You can't say you're going to do something and then make me rely on you and then not come through for me. That's what you're saying. And there are people who might understand that, and there are people who might not understand it. And majority of people are not going to understand, especially people who also don't have boundaries themselves. So, for example, if I don't have boundaries and I call you at 10 p.m. at night, and you have boundaries, you don't take calls past 8 p.m. If you don't take my call and maybe I had an emergency, then I would feel like you really let me down. And one of the things that would make me is you didn't communicate that boundary. I think this is the second bit. Once you've been okay with feeling misunderstood, you want then to communicate as clearly as possible your boundaries. So you want to be able to let me know that don't call me after 8 p.m. I won't pick calls. And the question would be, okay, so when do I bring this up? At the earliest opportunity. If you're building a relationship with this person, whether it's professional or personal, and you're chatting, you want to express that, because sometimes you say, I don't want you to call you past, I don't want you to call me past 8, but then you're texting me past 8. So that's sending mixed signals. It's like we can be close, but just, you understand. So you want to be
Yeah.
as clear as possible that in our communication, after 8 p.m., you text me, I don't reply. So I know that I cannot reach you after 8 p.m. So I have to look for somebody else to call for help. So communicate boundaries clearly is really, really important. And a lot of us are not able to do this. We think we're doing it well, but like you can see communication. You are
Yeah.
texting me after 9, but I call you and you're telling me you can't pick. I mean, it's the same phone you're using to text me. Why can't you pick? You understand?
Yeah.
So as as you decide to set these boundaries, you really want to be very clear about how you want to be treated. Otherwise, if you leave it very ambiguous like that, then it leaves room for different interpretations. Then you become a bad person, a difficult person. And in a sense, there can be some truth in that. So, number one, you want to be okay with being misunderstood, and that's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Then the second thing is you want to identify what those boundaries are. So if it's with family members, especially during the holidays, if you feel like, and we go back to this, testing your internal state and then your external, because that's really critical in the festive season. And you feel like you don't want to be in a lot of noise, in a lot of commotion, right? Then you want to be able to express that in this moment. And actually, you want to be very, very particular, as granular as you can. Yeah. I don't feel like being here now. See, one of the things that you learn a bit late in life is emotions. They're very intense but very brief, but in the moment they feel like they last forever, and so you make permanent decisions in an emotional state, and then after you make that decision, the emotions go away, you're left with your decision.
And
So,
regret,
and regret,
probably.
of course. Yes, definitely. And so, as you grow old, you start understanding that emotions are very brief, they don't last long. So, when you feel restless, when you feel overstimulated, when you feel edgy, it's not going to last forever. But then you start saying, I never want to be here. And we start using the word never and always. Just know that something's wrong there. Because the way you're feeling right now about this overstimulation is not the way you're going to feel forever. And you want to be able to be as specific as possible. So during the festive season, if you feel like you don't want to be in a particular environment, in that particular moment, yes, you want to tune into your emotions and communicate that as respectfully as possible. Yeah, I don't feel like being here now. Let me take a bit of a break. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And you actually meet and see how you feel tomorrow. So you really want to make you make proportionate decisions on the emotional experience that you have. As intense as it is, it's going to end.
Yeah.
Yes. And I
Okay.
think in the festive season, it's really important. And I know that alcohol really is a
Exacerbates.
really, yes, it really intensifies, it really magnifies it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself, using alcohol then to avoid being present. And then because you're not present to see how that went, you're afraid that you won't be able to do the next. So, for example, if I'm overstimulated in this particular environment, and then I feel like I can't handle it. So instead of excusing myself, or instead of responding to that as proportionally as possible, I drink. And then drinking makes me, oblivious to the
Mellow.
environment. And yeah, it takes me away. And then the following day, that's recorded in my memory that if I want to escape difficulty or hardship, I just need to drink. So you anticipate that the next interaction is going to be awkward or difficult. So you
Yeah.
drink before it even gets awkward. And so people deny themselves the opportunity to learn what they're capable of, how much difficulty or discomfort they can endure, because they quickly
Escape.
navigate. Yeah, they quickly. So I would say emotions are very temporary, very, very fleeting. Usually they go for, rarely do they go into an hour, rarely.
Yeah.
If they do, then we are starting to talk about mood, which is different, less intense. But emotions rarely, even for grief, normal grief is, you get that's what they called waves of grief, yeah? They come and go. So initially in the acute stage, they're overwhelming, they're there. But once you've buried your loved one, or maybe you've done the funeral arrangements,
Yeah.
then as the days go by, you see that your grief is interrupted by normal life experiences. You get angry, you get sad, you get frustrated, you get happy, you get excited in those moments. And
Yeah.
life starts to return. And so when we look at emotions that way, then we start responding to them as proportionately. That I'm not going to feel this way forever. But like I said, in your 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, early 30s, it doesn't usually feel that way. So you tend to make permanent decisions on temporary feelings.
Now, help us understand the difference between an emotion and a mood, because I think oftentimes we interchange them, in while speaking, because maybe we do not understand the gravity of, what is an emotion and when does emotion transfer over to be a mood.
So an emotion is usually provoked by something
Okay.
immediately, instantly. And it lasts for a few seconds to a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And there's usually a physiological reaction. So you feel sensations viscerally in your body. Like when you're feeling sad, sometimes you feel it in your chest, like a fullness. When
Yeah.
you're feeling angry, you feel, like there's heat,
Heat.
yes, radiating across your chest as well.
Yeah.
When you're anxious or afraid, you feel the butterflies in your tummy. So there's usually a visceral sensation with emotions, but it's short lasting.
Okay.
And there's usually a cause to attribute it to. Those are emotions. And our emotions change from minutes to seconds. So we have waves throughout the day. In the morning, you wake up, you're feeling fresh. You maybe go brush your teeth, you get ready, and then you get in your car and you have a flat tire. That's going to change your emotions. So you've come in with a
True.
very good mood into your car, but then now that with the flat tire, it changes your emotions. But then very quickly, you find a way to respond to that. You call somebody, yes. And so the emotions go away, and then the person who's helped you makes you feel relieved. So that's a different emotion. And as
Yeah.
you go through the day, you can see yourself, and this is normal. These are normal emotions.
Yes.
But I see that people don't want to feel these waves. People want to feel nonchalant, unfazed. They don't want to feel any emotions. And when they say they don't want, usually they mean negative emotions. But it's
Okay.
normal to go up high and to come low. So sadness is normal. You go to the office and the colleague you're working with, you're told they're in hospital, there's a problem. You're going to feel sad. But then, that project that you are, that deal that you're trying very hard to seal has come through. You feel
Yeah.
excited. And that's normal. That's how life is on a day to day. Now, mood is the average of all these emotions over a period of time. So mood is more sustained, less intense.
Okay.
So when you talk, and here I can use an example of mental illnesses that people often confuse.
Yeah.
Bipolar is a mood disorder.
Okay.
When the person has the manic episode, they have it for a couple of hours to a couple of days to even a couple of weeks. And it's not as intense as emotions. But inside that mood, they can have intense emotions. Does that make sense?
It is.
Yes. So when they're irritable, they can be extremely irritable as an emotional state, but their mood is high. So even depressed, when they're sad, when they're depressed mood, it's really, really extremely low, yeah, but not as intense as the emotions.
Makes sense.
And also, it's not easy for somebody to identify what is making them feel high or feel low, because it's an accumulation of many emotions that have persisted beyond the period that it has been provoked,
Yeah.
or that it should continue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. And so when people say you have bipolar, what they mean is you have borderline. Well, in a sense, because borderline is emotionally unstable. The emotions shift within milliseconds. A person with bipolar, and this is a personality, so it's a bit different from bipolar, right? So in borderline, in a minute, a person can be suicidal, happy, excited, start a business, break up. They can experience 100 different emotions in 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
But bipolar, it's a mood disorder. So is depression. It's a mood disorder. The emotions that a person feels are sustained, they are not as intense, and the person is not able to identify a specific trigger for that mood.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
those are the differences. Yes.
Thank you for that. Now, what advice would you have for people who are navigating no contact relationships or limited family interaction during the holidays?
Oh,
No contact.
I'd first want to know why they decided to go no contact.
Okay. So I'll make assumptions courtesy of articles I've read on Reddit or listened from Reddit. So either you have a very acrimonious relationship, maybe with your parent, maybe you are parentified, maybe you were neglected or underwent abuse. Sometimes you can come from a very abusive environment, or an environment of maybe drug and alcohol abuse, etc. So these are just different scenarios that can come into play, and therefore, once you are, your own self, you can make decisions for yourself, and you have gone for help. You've done your counseling or whatever assistance that you've had in terms of your mental health. You've come to the appreciation that you need to stay away from such environments. So in such a scenario, you decide to go no contact. It doesn't matter if they are blood or whatever relationship you have with them. You decide, you know what, you're not worth the trouble in my life, so I'm going to do me, and you're not going to form part of that equation. So that can be one of the examples you can give for no contact. Now, in a family situation, it can be the same. It can be drugs, it can be violence, it can be neglect, it can be parentification, etc. So the reasons can be insurmountable, in my opinion.
And the decision to, sorry, I need to understand.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you look at psychotherapy and the principles, they are not about giving advice. In fact, hardly ever are you told what to do. If anything, that's discouraged.
Okay.
So the goal is usually to help you help yourself. So understanding what's going on sometimes allows you to, refresh the perspective that you have on something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand this decision to go no contact is mutually agreed upon, or one person decided this is not for me, and then they don't inform the other, they just ghost them or withdraw from them. What happens?
I think most of the time it can be I making that decision. So let me assume that I'm the one who's gone no contact. Let me make the assumption that I come from my background or my childhood. Let's say either I was the firstborn, have siblings, maybe my parent was doing drugs or had multiple partners, and therefore the environment that I was brought up in would be not conducive, so to speak. So, in that sense, maybe I found myself being the parent to my siblings. I've done what I've done. Yes, I have taken care of my siblings, but in the process, I feel like I did not have the opportunity to be a teenager. I did not have the opportunity to do, I missed episodes in life or patterns in life. And therefore, when I have grown up and I'm an adult and I have my own space, I can hardly wait to get away from this environment of, the drugs and all that negativity. And I want to be by myself and do my life. And so, in such a scenario, oftentimes you will not find both parties going, for example, for the counseling or for that mental well-being checks together. No, most of the time you will find the individual. I will go to the counselor or the psychiatrist depending on how the situation is manifesting itself. And then after having the discussion with the doctor, I get to the point, you know what? I don't need this person. So I make the decision myself and I'm like, it's been real. Bye. So all of a sudden, maybe I will block you. I will change. Maybe I will move away. And yeah, it's like you never happened.
And after making this decision, right? You're telling me how I can advise them. So I need to understand. After making this decision to go no contact,
Yeah.
what does it do for you? Does it bring you relief? Does it bring you the peace that you wanted?
The assumption would be yes, because then you are no longer in that negative environment. And maybe
Yes.
the only, yeah. So that
Does
would be
it
an
bring you
assumption
the
that
peace? It does.
it does. But at the same time, I would also beg to debate in the sense
Mm-hmm.
it was not ideally, you would expect family to be together, bonded, loving, all things nice. But it's always, oftentimes it's not the case. So in this particular scenario, we are looking at the not the case. So me being away from the trigger factors is bringing me my peace or whatever I define to be my peace. So
Yes.
when now it comes to this festive season where you have limited interactions, because for
Is it
example,
my
just speak,
internet? Is it my
sorry,
internet? It's a bit breaking up. Do you feel it too?
no, not really,
Oh,
no.
go on. Mm-hmm.
So
Is it?
So in this case, for someone who has gone no contact, it doesn't mean that they have gone no contact to the whole family. They will probably have gone no contact to particular persons that are deemed to be triggers. And therefore, if they still keep in touch with other members of the family, obviously the relationship is, so to speak, unique, because there are those that you are okay with and there are those that you are not okay with. So how do they navigate, this festive season where some people are coming over with goodwill, but others you really don't want to interact with them because, yeah, they are not good for your soul.
Yes. Just more questions. Yeah. The no contact is limited or unlimited? Like, is there a time frame to it? I'm not going to talk to my mother for a year. I'm not going to talk to her for 5 years, or I'm never talking to her again.
Most of the time, it's no contact for life. In some cases, some people have no contact for life. Others go no contact for quite a duration of time until it gets to a point that now both parties are at a mind frame whereby they can now reconcile. But if the reconciliation fails, well, back to our
No
modus operandi.
contact.
Yeah.
So this family member triggers me, and I've tried to handle this trigger and what it does to me, and I've failed. I've not managed to find an effective way to deal with it. So let me cut her off. But then I'm still tied to her. So when there are interactions, and she's there or he's there, do I ignore her? Do I still avoid her? Like if it's
Most of
five of us and we are talking about something really critical in the family and this person has to be involved, I must be involved. How do I handle that? Do I ignore her? Do I avoid her still?
you will probably not even want to be part of that conversation.
But you have to.
In such a case, then avoidance will come into play. Sometimes no contact can also be because of the other party is the toxic party. You know,
True.
they don't take accountability for their actions of their life. So because they are always projecting, you decide, you know what, you're not worth,
The trouble.
engaging. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in such a situation, yes, if you have to be in the space they are in, there's quite an amount of avoidance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you keep the peace in such a scenario? Because that's the least you can do for yourself.
But you don't want to keep but you don't want to keep the peace with the person, right?
No, probably
No.
no. No.
Because you see, avoidance in the short term can be very helpful in the short term. In the short term, there's no literature that would tell you 2 days is a short term, 2 weeks is short term. But a brief moment, avoidance is good because you want to use avoidance to strategize, to recharge, especially when it comes to family members. Because you cannot, maybe you can, but I'm thinking the way that we're describing it, it's one family member, but you're still connected to the other family members. And this member is connected to the other family member. So there's a common connector,
Yeah.
right? So you can't really escape them. You can't really avoid them fully the way you want to. And so with family members, it gets complicated that way. But also, when this toxic person has been abusive to you for a long time, and you decide to leave the environment they're in, then you want to again go back to yourself and see what impact did that leave in you that you still carry with you as you avoid them,
Okay.
such that even after avoiding them, you're not really peaceful. You're not really getting the relief that you wanted
Yeah.
because whatever they did to you, now you're coming to face the impact of it in their absence. Whatever beliefs that they instilled in you, now they're yours. Whatever negativity that they, also instilled in you, it's in you now. They don't need to be there. And so you might find yourself sometimes behaving exactly the way the person you're running away is behaving. And that might be perpetuated by the avoidance.
Okay.
Like, does that make sense?
It does.
You lived in their environment, you grew up in their environment. They taught you what you know today, or at least part of it. Yeah. And they no longer need to teach you because it's already in you. It's formed the roots. Yeah. And so
So,
those roots now, yes. And so the behaviors that you disliked a lot in that person, that you want to separate yourself from, they're actually in you. And there are people maybe around you that may have noticed but haven't told you, or have noticed and started telling you. Yeah. And so avoidance is not really a long-term strategy. I would say you really want to find a way to reconcile within yourself, not with the person. Like you said, this person is not willing to negotiate or take responsibility or accountability. So you
yeah.
really want to come to yourself and find a way to reconcile those problems because they're in you, not in them. The way that triggers work, maybe I could use an analogy, is houses have these bells that ring, yeah? There's a button outside.
Yeah.
So the button outside is the trigger, but the bell rings inside. If there's no electricity, you can press that bell a million times. I won't hear it inside the house, so I won't know
Yeah.
to open the door.
Yeah.
So then it's less about the toxic person, if this person really wants to heal their wounds, and
Yeah.
more about the way that they interpreted, the way that they internalized, the toxicity that was inflicted on them. And so the avoidance, like I said, is helpful, but it has to be time limited. because then you want to be able to come back and have an effective way of dealing with this person so that they don't continue. The other thing you want to see in these factors is they control your life now. Because that critical meeting, you're going to avoid it because you're avoiding this person. Yeah, if there's a family function, you know that person is going to be there. You want to go, but you can't go because that person. So you avoiding them is actually giving them more power to
Power.
control. Yes.
Okay.
And so you really want to go and dig deep and see what are these things that were left inside me that she put in me. And how do I, repair those? What did she break inside me? Yeah. So that then you go back to the same environment, but a different person with different resources, with different capability to deal with that person. Especially if
Yeah.
you stay with colleagues, you leave your employment, right? With brothers and sisters, you live in separate houses. So there's already a separation that goes on. But then there's also a closeness that comes in different periods during family times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that itself naturally allows you to rebuild yourself, to understand yourself, and also use those opportunities instead of focusing on avoidance as a long-term strategy. Reconcile the differences, the trauma within yourself. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense, especially the fact that whatever damage has been done, whatever trauma one has undergone, in as much as there's another party that might have inflicted or participated in that trauma, the ball is always on your court to unlearn and redefine what, for example, peace means to you, what values you want for yourself, so that as you rightly said, avoidance, you're just giving them more power. So how can you turn the turn the tables and take ownership for your life, and then they can deal with whatever it is that they're having as their issues. But for you, you remain unaffected based on whatever it is that they did to you. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. How can people navigate chronic conditions or health challenges that affect their experience of the festive season? This can be physical, mental, you name it.
Okay. So before I go to this question, the
Yeah.
last part about not being affected, I think it sounds really appealing to not be affected by people around you, but I don't think it's possible. The goal here would be that you're going to interact with this person, but the impact they have in your life is what you can control. Like they'll
Diminishing
do the same
factor.
things they will do the same things they did that got under your skin,
Yeah.
but now they won't get as deep. Now you've developed the capacity to handle. So you'll still be affected, but you'll just be better able to deal with them. That's what then therapy gives you, the capacity to handle situations.
Okay.
So there's nowhere in literature you'll find, avoid the environment. Very rarely, like in extreme cases. In a lot of cases, is how can you change the environment you're in,
Yeah.
right? Within
Yeah.
yourself, how can you experience it differently? So the people who interact with, the environment we interact in, is always going to influence us, and it influences each other. So
Yeah.
that will never go away. But the way you handle it, this is really critical, is what changes. So people tend to desire or wish that problems never existed. And that's unrealistic. They'll always be there, different kinds, at different stages in life. But what you want to build critically that will help you is your capacity to handle those things. And the capacity is just the belief in yourself that I can. Yeah, so this toxic person, I can handle her. Reaching that point, that's you taking back your power, that's you reclaiming your control. Yes, hoping that's yes.
No, makes a lot of sense and true. The need to take back your power is what redefines your whole experience altogether.
Yeah. So the other question was navigating chronic conditions
Yeah,
like diabetes, cancer. So if your condition has nutritional restrictions, then you want to prepare ahead for the festivities
yeah,
because you know how what people are going to be eating, you know what people are going to be doing. And so if you're going to, let's say, a rural area and you're coming from urban, you want to make sure that you carry good supply of your insulin, of your medication. Yes,
yeah.
that has to be a priority. And then if it's according to food, if you have food restrictions, then you also want to make sure that you can get that food there or you can go with it. So preparation is really important. And
If I
when
can
you're
pose a
around,
question,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
as family, so let's say you've done that, you've carried your medication and you're all set. But as family, sometimes the questions can be too much, especially
Yeah,
when chronic conditions. So I may be doing right, I may be taking care of myself, but
yeah,
as family, let's say I'm dealing with a big C, cancer, and I really I'm not in the mind frame. I really don't want to talk too much about the cancer because when you start talking about medical conditions, the mood just dips really quickly. And sometimes, some people don't know how to manage such conversations. So if I'm in a family setup where maybe I know someone who might be diabetic or someone who might be asthmatic and we have smokers there, or even cancer or any other chronic condition, lupus, you name it, where the person might not fully participate with the festivities, or they how can I mean we really don't want to ruin the mood of the day for them because of the medical conditions that they're dealing with. How can we handle that, such conversations or such scenarios with grace?
a lot of scenarios come to mind in the sense that you might find the patient maybe needs the attention, and so they actually want to be asked, and they want people to just go on and on about
Yeah,
their illness. They're actually
yeah,
okay with that. Or you might find someone who's okay, but they're shy to be put on the spotlight.
yeah,
Or you might find that somebody wants and is around people who are not interested or who are feeling like it's inconvenient to ask them about the illness. And so this person might be feeling deprived. They might feel like people don't care about them.
yeah,
And so you really want to then understand the person who's sick, you know, what do they need in that particular moment? Because if they don't want to be asked about their illness, then you might find that either in that moment they keep it very private, or since diagnosis they've been keeping it very private. And maybe another family member would have leaked it out to other family members.
yeah,
But this person, when it comes to his illness, like you never see him diabetic. You know, for you, you can't tell I'm diabetic, right? And
yeah,
so even during the festive season, you can't tell that this person is sick. You don't know if they have cancer or not because they came for a week. They do their chemo once every 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah. So when they're coming
yeah,
to you, they're okay. So you won't be able to tell anything. And so that's what I'm saying. I've got so many different scenarios, and each one of them could play out differently and could be the right way of having that conversation. So I'll go back to you want to know what your needs are as a person who's sick from other people. Yes. Do you want
yeah,
them to care about you? Want them to ask how you're doing? Do you want them to ask about your medication, if there's any help you need? And in your interactions, we go back to the boundaries, yeah, because this is where now you express them. And there are different ways to say, please don't ask me that. One of them is just being quiet. Like somebody asks and you don't say much, you say, short answers, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody is paying attention, they'll pick up on that this person doesn't want to talk about this. But when you bring up a different subject, they're full on, engaged in it. And so
Yeah.
if you're very attentive, you'll see that. And so for the patient here and the family members, I would say you want to know, because like I said, sometimes there can be a clash between what you want and what you can ask for, or you want something but you're afraid of asking for it. And so you start sending mixed signals to your family members. So when they start asking you, initially you're excited about it, and then as they go on, instead of you changing your tone, you feel forced to keep up the conversation,
Yeah.
and you're the one who's hurting. But then the other person doesn't know that you don't want to continue the conversation. So noticing that your mind has changed, you don't want to continue talking about it, you want to express that as directly as you can.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then try to make it indirectly. I mean, going to the bathroom is usually a very polite excuse, I would say, to allow people to change the conversation. If you're the center of that conversation and you don't want to be anymore, excuse
True.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then if you don't have the words to use, I'm thinking that could be direct gesture, and you stay there for like 5 minutes, enough to, you
True.
don't come back too quickly. And then police, oh,
Yeah.
we were asking you. No, no, no. You want to stay there maybe for 3, 5 minutes. And
Yeah. And
then
then change the
that's
tone
enough
or the
time for
mood.
them. Yeah, that's enough time for them to feel awkward enough for somebody to break the silence.
True. Very true. Now, as we come to the tail end of this conversation, what's one mindset shift or action people can take to make this festive season more authentic or emotionally balanced?
The first one that comes to mind quickly is you are the first responder, your first emotional responder. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm just saying it now. You're your first emotional responder. And this means that when you're feeling upset, when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling any negative emotion, it is you who has to come to your own rescue first. Like the person you want to rely on is yourself, to do something or not to do something to make yourself feel better. And here, doing something, um, I'm talking about adaptive things to do, not maladaptive. Maladaptive would be using drugs, drinking alcohol, adaptive things. Like you want to be the one that makes yourself feel better. If you're not able to deal with an emotion immediately, defense mechanisms are usually helpful, and they're different. Yeah, sublimation is not a bad one, where you direct your negative emotions into exercising, cleaning, but you don't want to do that for too long. It's like you're giving yourself time to catch up with what's happening to you.
Yep.
So you're the first responder. This one has to sink in, because a lot of people tend to wait for other people to make them feel better. So, like, I'm going to stay angry until you apologize. I'm going to continue being disappointed until you know that you've let me down so you can apologize. Yeah. So you don't want to give that role to anyone else, because that's a lot of control you're giving away. You are the first emotional responder. That's number one. So in the
Yeah.
holiday seasons, when somebody offends you, yes, they've offended you. They're responsible for that. They're guilty of that. But the way that you feel, you asked about emotions and mood. There's another word that's very important to add here, and those are feelings. Yeah.
Yep.
So emotions, you'll find that in some literature they say they're objective, in the sense that you can you can see the emotion that a person is expected to experience in a particular situation. So, for example, like this conversation we're having, right? If it was in person and there were people sitting, I
Yeah.
might experience a level of anxiety, right? And that anxiety might show maybe in the way that I speak, in my hands, I might be shaking. So there's an expected state of anxiety that I should feel. That's the emotion, right? But the way that I'm going to experience that anxiety is going to differ from one person to another.
True.
So the way that I feel the anxiety is not the way that you're going to feel the anxiety. So feelings are subjective. Same for grief. Grief is one word. When you experience a loss, two people can experience the same loss, but they're going to feel that loss very differently.
Yeah.
So feelings are very subjective. And that's what I'm saying, you're the first responder. So the way that you think about the emotions you're going through, that's how you're responding to the emotion, is it? The way that you think
Yeah.
about them. If you think that I should not be feeling this heartbroken, I should not be feeling this hard, that attitude is what is going to shape the way you experience the emotion. So that resistance that I should not be feeling when it's a normal emotional experience, it actually intensifies the emotion. Whereas when you say, yes, Rosalind said we're going to have a meeting at 7 p.m. It's 7:30. She hasn't come. I'm disappointed. I acknowledge that I'm feeling that emotion, disappointment. Anyone would,
Yeah.
right? But denying that emotion, resisting that emotion, and not allowing myself to feel it, that's what actually intensifies it. And it keeps you longer. Because sometimes if you just allow yourself to feel the disappointment as the first emotional responder, then you realize it doesn't last very long. If you allow it to run its course, it doesn't last very long. But in a lot of cases, we resist the appropriate emotion that we're feeling in that particular situation, because you should not be that important to me. You should not be controlling me. Yet by doing that, I'm allowing you to sit in my head for longer,
Yeah.
because then it turns into a grudge. And remember, the disappointment doesn't always remain disappointment when you're not sorting it out. It starts changing. You want to imagine emotions that are unresolved, and this is just my analogy, as when you eat, let's say ugali, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know why I chose that. Would it go well? When you put it in your mouth, it's ugali, yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
But when it gets to your stomach, it mixes with the juices there. It's no
Yeah.
longer ugali. So even when you spit it out, even when you vomit it, it's no longer
Yeah.
ugali. So emotions are like that when they're unresolved. They change, they degrade, they grow, you understand? So if it was
Yeah.
disappointment at the beginning and you didn't resolve it, you wait 30 minutes late. And
Yeah.
then next time you do something else, or even without doing something else, that disappointment starts becoming anger, it starts becoming resentment, it starts becoming bitterness, acrimony, hostility. You understand? It starts
Yeah.
growing. Yes. And so
Wow.
you want to respond to, well, you're not going to respond to all your emotions, but you want to be able as much as possible to respond to the important emotions that tend to determine the kind of day you're going to have. Yes, and sometimes responding to them is to allow them to actually just run their course, allow yourself to feel them. And when you do, you're able to label the emotion properly, accurately. You're able to process that emotion, right? Because then you start calming down and your rationality starts rising when you allow it. But when you resist it, it's like, okay, take everything I have, you're in control of my life. That's essentially what you're
Yeah.
doing. But you think you're doing the opposite. So being the first emotional responder, that's perhaps the biggest advice I can give for Christmas. Don't wait for somebody to make you feel better. Do it yourself. Other people can, of course, but they're supposed to be secondary. You are the
Yeah.
primary, you're the first. Yes. Yes. So that one should always be there. Yeah.
That's a key learning here. The fact that first I need to be the first emotional responder. I don't think that oftentimes we see it that way. If someone has wronged you, we always see the other person. We always deflect to you're responsible for the way I'm feeling. If you didn't do what you did, I wouldn't be feeling the way I'm feeling. And yes, someone might have done you wrong, but how you react to it, how you engage with that feeling will determine if you will be sober minded or you will go 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. So, and I think we need to have a lot of appreciation when it comes to, when we talk about mental well-being, we think that it's only about sadness and grief and trauma and all these things. We don't see mental well-being on the positive side of things. It doesn't have to be because you're sick that you need to see a counselor or a psychiatrist. But historically, we find ourselves that is what was instilled in us from the word go. So aspects to do with being the first emotional responder are not the first thing that comes to mind. No. First, I will deflect to you're the reason why I am feeling the way I'm feeling. Then, why is it that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling? Is it because I know that you're a latecomer or you don't keep time or whatever? And what have I ever done to communicate that with you, to make you understand that your late coming rubs me off the wrong way, etc. I don't think we've gotten to a point where we can have such conversations, such vulnerable conversations. But yes, it makes a lot of sense. And the fact that one of the things I've learned is emotions are objective and feelings are subjective. That's a key learning for me, to be very honest.
Yeah. Objective in the sense that if you said you're going to come at 7 and then you come at 7:30, you're late.
Yeah.
So the emotion there's an expected emotion, like a consensus. If we ask 20 people, how would you expect to feel in this situation? They would say the same thing.
Yeah.
That's how the objective. But the way you experience that emotion is what we call feelings, which is why we say they're subjective.
And it could be because if I have unresolved issues with you, they just accumulate, and then all of a sudden, something that should have been disappointment because you're late turns out to be, a blowout, a monumental blowout that is going to bring in a discussion of, you remember the last time you did this, and then the other time you did this, and then the other time you did it. And that has nothing to do with the fact that you just came late, but the fact that I've just gone back to archives and remembered all the things you've ever done to me and wronged me, and I never dealt with them. But now is the opportune time for me to deal with you. So you're late, you never keep time, you're always argumentative, you never listen, you do an X and Y and Z. Okay, makes sense.
We call that kitchen sinking.
It has a word.
Exactly that. Yeah. Kitchen sinking. You bring out all the dirty dishes and you throw them in the kitchen sink.
Wow. So much for airing dirty laundry. This is a better terminology. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's a bad strategy to have conflicts, because then you get overwhelmed. When you go in the kitchen and you've got all these dirty dishes,
Yeah.
you do that. Where do I start? It's a bad strategy. Yeah. And so the reason I'm saying you really want to pay attention to your emotions, because what you're saying is this person was just sweeping them under the rug every
Yeah.
time. Now the rug is full. But if you resolve conflicts as they come along, if you resolve those negative emotions, if you deal with them, then you're able to regulate your emotions. One of the reasons why people are not able to regulate is not mental illness per se. Well, it can be, but it's not always mental illness.
Yeah.
It's all these, suppressed emotions. And not because there's no permission for you to express. It could be because you perceive there's no permission.
Uh-huh.
It's when we say life is messy, I think we don't really appreciate the word messy in life, because when you assess somebody and you say, okay, you're in an environment where you're not allowed to express yourself, all right, show me the things that limited you from expressing yourself. A lot of people will not be able to name what limited them. Sometimes the limitation is in their perception. I think I can't tell you this because I made this assumption about you. Not that you explicitly told me I cannot express myself this way, but I made an assumption about you that I cannot say this in front of you. But then I move away from that truth over time. I rationalize it, I intellectualize it, and now I turn it around and I say, you actually said it. Like, you restricted me from expressing myself. You made me suppress myself. Life is messy. Like,
Interesting.
really, really messy.
How can you then, when, if the other party is defensive in nature, because there are
Yeah.
situations whereby you would like to express yourself,
Mm.
but you know very well it doesn't matter what it is I'm going to say, they will always know how to circumvent the statement. And then all of a sudden, I'm the bad guy. So
Mm.
why should I even bother, you know?
Yeah.
So in that respect, you're like, you know what? Think whatever it is that you want to think. But I know you are the reason. But because, you know, we are both not at a place whereby we can have this conversation rationally, it's left floating somewhere and then turns out into a kitchen sink situation, because then there will come a time when I will blow up, because I will keep it in until you know, sometimes people will say, maybe in Swahili, wanyonami mjinga, or you've been playing me for too long, or you think that I cannot stand for myself. And then in such situations, everything just blows up. And then things that happened eons ago come up. So I don't know, in such situations where you're having defensiveness, you know, defensiveness can be part of, you know, it's a defense mechanism for people, for some people. So, and I bet it's one of the things that people will encounter, especially during this period. Maybe you're having that family together. You have your brother who said, I am going to bring the goats because we're going to have nyama choma. And then 3 days to the occasion or a week to it, they decide, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, or I do not have the funds, or can we fundraise, or can we all have that character in the family that will have such a behavior or something similar. And in such situations, people are like, why did we even believe or trust Rosalind to come through with XYZ? Because there's that perception. You've disappointed before, so it's nothing new.
True. I mean, old patterns can sometimes predict new interactions, right?
Yeah.
If you've been doing this for me for 3, 4 times, that starts becoming my reality when interacting with you.
Okay.
And because I'm hopeful that you might change, I might still give more chances, hoping that you would. I might even try to help you, come through with those chances. So I might secretly send you money to buy the goat, just so that you don't disappoint me.
Yeah.
And I think it's the way that there's this book that says, don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In my 20s, I used to think, oh, I want to be like that. I don't want to sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
But when I got into psychiatry, sweat the small stuff. Like, sweat the small stuff. Because by the time this person becomes defensive, this person becomes a disappointment to you, you've missed out on so many opportunities that you could have resolved issues that you didn't, that this
Yeah.
person now feels comfortable, or this person now feels like whatever you're telling them is a threat. That's why they're defensive. Because for me as a psychiatrist, when someone is defensive, especially in a relationship, romantic or non-romantic, I'm interested to know, what is it that's worth defending against the person that you say you love? What are you protecting, from this
Yeah.
person that you consider a threat? Because then everything the other person says is a threat, is a crisis,
Yeah.
right? That this person has to defend themselves against. So it didn't just happen. This person didn't just become defensive. There were small interactions. Maybe one day they were talking to you, you're on your phone, and they didn't ask you, why are you not listening to me? The next day, you told them not to put the glass on the table when they're done drinking water. They kept it on, they put it on the table. You didn't say anything. You get it? So those
Yeah.
are the dirty utensils. that you're putting under the wardrobe down there.
Yeah.
So then when it's full, the last thing is the one that triggers you to bring all of them and put them on the sink. So sweat, I would here sweat the small stuff.
Deal with it immediately and move on.
Yes, 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 because it's the one that builds up. When it's small, you're like, I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. But how are you making a big deal if you're dealing with, if it bothers you? We talked about being authentic, is it? If it
Yeah.
bothers me that you didn't reply to my text, and I know that you've been on your phone, even if it's within an hour, and I ask you, but I know you're on your phone, and we resolve that issue, it won't be a piece that builds up,
Re-
a hill or a mountain of
yeah.
things. So I'm saying sweat the small stuff, like as proportionately as possible. You're not overreacting. If something is bothering you and it's small, bring it up, resolve it. Because
Yeah.
it's this, you're saving it, you're saving it, you're saving it, and then you're waiting for tipping point. And then at the tipping point, none of you are rational because all of you are high with these emotions. So
Yeah.
your function, your frontal lobe, the part where you have executive control, it's overrode by your emotions. Your amygdala is now the ones that are getting all the supply. So you can
Yeah.
only feel, you can't think. And now emotions drive you. So you start having what we call emotional reasoning. You feel like you're logical simply because you feel it so strongly. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like you've hurt me, so it has to be true that you've hurt me. It has to be a fact that you've hurt me. Simply because I feel it. Not because I have evidence, but because I feel it so strongly. And so
Yeah.
at that tipping point, there's nothing you can resolve. And then it's very hard to come back from that because it's a lot. And sometimes you really need a mediator or a counselor to come in and help you. So
Yeah.
this one I'm going to repeat: sweat the small stuff as proportionately, as constructively as possible.
I agree. So, two things I'm walking away as first aid tips. Be the
Oh, it's
first responder. Yeah, be the first emotional responder and sweat the small stuff, but as proportionately as possible.
yes.
Okay. Now, I know we've been speaking about authenticity during the festive season, but life continues beyond the festive season. What other tips, as we close out, what other tips would you give in terms of how to manage not only our emotions and feelings, but the relations that we have, the way we communicate, yeah, the whole well being part of our mental stuff?
I've been trying to look for literature that can tell me at our core, what do we desire most? And maybe you can tell me with your own experience, what do we desire most? Do we desire power and control, or do we desire more to be respected and appreciated? Which one do we want to have more?
Why can't we have both?
No, which one do we want to have more? We can have both, but which one can we live without? And which one is non-negotiable?
You know, it's tough in this sense. Power and control on one hand, respect and appreciation on the other. Oftentimes you want respect and control.
You can't have both. Here, I'm saying which one?
Exactly. So you see, when you talk about power and control, then I'll have to debate, what am I willing to lose? What am I willing to live without? Because you see, respect, you earn respect. Appreciation is will make you feel good. But power and control, they're like driving forces. There's conflict. So I definitely want to have the respect, but the respect, I have to earn it. And you can earn respect when you're having the power and the control, depending on how you use it.
So I'm still looking
Interesting.
for the answer for that question. I have a feeling it's going to be power and control, in the sense that when I look at the human body and the way it functions, there are functions that are voluntary that we can't control, like going to pee, but there are
Yeah.
functions that are involuntary. like breathing or your heartbeat. It's not voluntary.
Yeah.
And when you lose the function of, let's say you lose a limb and you can't walk, you've lost some control there. So you have less power.
Yeah.
And that does something to you more than losing respect.
True. But sometimes it depends with how you have defined or the control that power has on you.
Power of
Now,
being able to move around.
mobility is key, true. But, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect. When someone loses their limb, for example, someone is involved in a road accident, you will definitely feel bad. You will actually grieve the lost body part, and you will have to rethink your whole life, the new version of you physically. And there's a lot of emotional work that you have to do. However, does that mean that life stops? Life doesn't stop. Does that mean that you are no longer, if I were to take myself as an example, does that mean I'm no longer Rosalind because I've lost my leg? Or, yeah, in this case, for example, my leg. It doesn't mean that I am no longer Rosalind. It just means that a new version of Rosalind will be coming up based on the fact that the mobility I had previously is gone. But do I lose myself fully because of my leg? Does my whole identity go, or is it based on my leg? No, it's not. It's part of you. It was part of you. It is part of you, but it is not fully you. And that is debatable. I know that is debatable, but that's my humble but that's my humble opinion.
No, when you're saying this, I'm remembering this book. I know it's not clinical. Stephen
Yeah.
Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mhm.
I read it a long time ago, and he was talking about how people are centered. And if somebody is centered on, let's say, he's an athlete, and that's the core of his identity. He's an athlete,
Yeah.
right? When he loses his legs or the ability to use his legs, he's lost who he is.
The
So any
identity of being
threat,
an athlete. Yes.
his identity completely, that's where it's
Okay.
centered. If you're a family man, then your family is the center of your identity. If anything happens to your family,
Yeah.
you experience an existential crisis, a severe one.
True.
You become fragmented as an individual. So I think when it comes to identity, it depends what a person is centered, what really centers a person, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
Because you'll find that there are patients who have, let's say, tumors, and those tumors are in the head, for example. Yeah, they have a tumor, but they play very well the piano, and that tumor is, if the neurosurgeon goes in to operate, the margins are not clear, it could affect the ability to
Yeah.
play the keys.
True.
They're not going to get the operation.
True.
We say, let's treat patients with dignity. A cancer patient can have all the dignity they're given, but if the oncologist cannot control the pain that is unbearable, that cancer patient is not going to find life worth living.
True.
If a person has lost their ability to take care of themselves and they're dependent on somebody else, even if those people are willing to be depended on, like they
Yeah.
don't find it an inconvenience and they express that as clearly as openly, it comes down to how this person perceives that, is it? If
Yeah.
they perceive it as weaker, as not having control over their life at all, it's conceivable that they might have some desire to achieve control in a different way.
True.
And this brings me to give you another example. I gave this example to my students, fourth years and 6th years. For for those who are listening, I hope this is it's a bit of an extreme example. Actually, I didn't give it. A student suggested it, and I let it run. A student said, if Al Shabaab walked into the class, we were on the third floor.
Yeah.
If you knew that they were killing people downstairs and you knew that you were next, would you wait for them to kill you or would you jump?
Yeah, probably a lot of people would jump.
That was the response. And,
Yeah.
and that was a need to control things. You'd rather take charge of your life, right, than
Yeah.
somebody else come and disorganize it, or somebody
True.
else take control of it.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
And
Yeah.
so we were having a discussion. It was in September. It was about suicide awareness, and we were trying to understand, why do people, attempt suicide, or do people die by suicide?
Yeah.
And the more conversations we had, the more examples they gave, is that people feel like they've lost control of their life, and suicide feels like a way to regain that control. And that's why towards the end,
Yeah.
they are okay, they are normal, they're happy. They
They've
make
reconciled.
peace. Yes, because they found a way to regain that control
Okay.
on my terms.
Yeah.
If I feel like a burden, I'm hurting people, it makes me feel out of control. But if I leave, I'm not out of control.
You went out on your own terms.
Yes. So that need for control, I asked you between control and respect.
Yeah. True.
One is stronger. Which one pushes us? Which one drives us to either leave or to not want to leave?
Yeah.
The need for,
Oftentimes, yes, power and control takes precedence.
even the defensiveness you're talking about, it's
Yeah.
that need to control. I don't want you. I want to be able to push you away.
And the anger of why you feel the other person has control over you.
Yes, you can't have it. So that's why I'm defending myself against that. Whatever you're telling me, even if I ask you, and this is interesting with couples, yeah? When they reach that point of defensiveness, I want ice cream, you want ice cream. But if you say, can we have ice cream? I no longer want to have ice cream.
Because you're the one who said it, it's not me. It didn't emanate from me.
No. I didn't want you to even say it at all. If I want ice cream, I want to go and get it. When you suggest it, even if you're suggesting it, you're not forcing me, you're not, you're not controlling me, you're just suggesting, I don't want ice cream anymore.
Isn't that an extreme level of insecurity?
You can call it that.
I mean, someone suggested it. They did not direct it. They did not demand of it. They just mentioned it.
But
What
they
you do with
used
that information is up to you. But now you've gone to the extreme, and then all of a sudden, persona non grata.
control. Yeah. We want to be in control. I think I'm still doing my research to see what I come up with between respect and control. But I think we want control.
True. True.
So you're asking me going forward,
Yep.
it's acknowledging that you want control, because a lot of people say they don't want control, but they can't have enough of it. And so that brings conflict, that you're denying that you want something, but then you go ahead. It's like I'm telling you, I don't want you to smoke anymore. You smoke cigarettes, you don't have a problem with it. I'm telling you, if you want to be in a relationship with me, I don't want you to smoke. And I want you to be able to take that seriously and do it. That's me wanting to control that part of your life. But then I'm saying, oh, I love you the way you are, but I don't want you to smoke. No, do you see that conflict there? I love you
Yeah.
exactly the way you are. I don't want to change a thing about you, but you've got to stop smoking.
So get the one who's not smoking.
No,
But
but
we
I
don't
want
want
you.
that
Yeah, but we don't want
control.
that.
Okay.
That part, I want to control it, but I don't want you to think that it's control. And that's what brings a lot of conflict in relationship, not calling things as they are.
Interesting. I don't think we see it that way most of the time. We see it as I mentioning an attribute that, or, my bare minimums. I'm just saying it, I don't want you to
Yeah.
smoke. I don't want you to, whatever it is that I don't like about you, it is presented as an attribute. But in reality, it could be your
You have to,
identity that
you
I'm,
have to package it.
yeah.
You can't just take it out there naked. You've got to clothe it with, the way you're saying it. Yeah. I'm not controlling you. I'm just saying, because if you say controlling, then you have to meet yourself. You have to meet that part of yourself that you don't want to acknowledge.
You will have a negative landing, but to you, you want controlling a nicely positively packaged control
You
item.
won't call it control. You'll say, I just want you to be healthy. You'll find a way to intellectualize it. And the other person might perceive it exactly as you mean it. And they may become defensive as a result because you are trying to control them, but you don't want to call it control.
Or they might see it as you have their best interest at heart.
That's how you put it, though. I don't want you to get lung cancer. I don't want you to get COPD. So don't smoke anymore. I want you to live a long life.
Isn't it narcissistic?
I don't want to go there today.
Okay, yes. Okay, all right.
It's a whole, but yes, control.
Okay. So the need for people to understand and acknowledge that they actually want control.
That's the first step because they already want it. We all want it. Like you want to, if right now you lose your ability to control your bladder and then you have to have a catheter, oh, that's going to change you, isn't it?
True.
Yeah, so the ability to control, I want to go poop, I can go to the toilet, I don't have a colostomy. Those are really important
Yeah.
things, and that's control. So all of us want it, and acknowledging it is one step. But I would say the best use of control is to, or the best way to be powerful, I'm phrasing this as I go along here, is to know when to use that control in relationships. Not just willy-nilly, like you want to know when to use it. And I think when I say
Yeah.
it that way, the word you use right now, strategically, yeah, using control strategically. A lot of people might think that's narcissistic. And maybe as we finish, I think how long are we supposed to go?
Don't worry. No, we're coming to the tail end, so you're good.
So I think the people who talk about narcissistic personality are not psychiatrists, are not psychoanalysts, are not psychotherapists, are not even psychologists, most of them. Because when you look at the origins of the word narcissism, the way that Freud explained it is essentially self-love. Narcissism is self-love. And all of us need a bit of narcissism to build self-esteem. Like for you to say you're confident in yourself, there has to be some amount of self-love, and that's narcissism. Yeah.
Okay.
Narcissistic
Yeah.
personality, which is not a mental disorder, just narcissistic personality. This is somebody who has excessive level of self-love. It's like an introvert and an extrovert. An extrovert really needs to interact with people. An introvert not as much as the extrovert. So there are extremes to that. So narcissistic is a person who has excess self-love, right? They need
Yeah.
admiration from others, but not abnormal. And this allows them to rise up to the positions of leadership and politics. Now, narcissistic personality disorder, right, is excess love that causes impairment of function. And this comes from a deep sense of insecurity. It's an
Okay.
inferiority that compensates by presenting yourself as superior.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's the disorder. So a person with narcissistic personality disorder is somebody who was deprived of attention, who was deprived of care in the early years. Yeah. And now they've
Yeah.
decided, if my mom and dad couldn't care for me, I'm going to make everyone else care for me. And I'm going to show them that I'm important. That's a disorder that needs to be sorted out. But narcissistic personality, these are executives in corporate. Yeah. And because they need the admiration, they're willing to work for it. So narcissism as a concept is just self-love. If you have a healthy amount of that, yeah, and you bring it
Yeah.
into the relationship, yes, you still have your need for control. Everyone has it. It's not just narcissists that have need for control. Everyone has it. But you start looking at, okay, can I live with this? Can I live with this man smoking? Okay, I can compromise that. So you start having a list of your pet peeves, right? I cannot live with this. If he cheats on me, this I can't live with. That's your deal breaker. So you start building these as you go along. And so learning when to use that control, especially in relationships, is what gives you leverage to either keep that relationship for as long as you want to, or to decide it's not serving me anymore. So let me just end it. Let me control it by ending it now. I don't see us
Yeah.
moving past this. So acknowledging, like today, the ones who are here, acknowledging that the need for control is there in you. Yes. And sometimes you
Yeah.
try to package it so that you don't see yourself that way. Not that the other person doesn't see you, but you don't want to see yourself as controlling.
Yeah.
Yes. And then saying that, okay, I want to be aware that I'm using it. I want Rosalind to do something for me, but for me to get her to do this, I want to deposit this and do this and do this, so that, and then you influence her to do that thing for you. That's control, isn't it?
Yes.
And there you can bring in the word persuasion and start asking yourself, okay, what's the difference between persuasion and manipulation? All of these are ways to try and influence somebody, and influencing somebody is what control is. So if we can see
Interesting.
ourselves exactly as we are, that we want to control other people in some aspects of their lives, and failing to do that is what frustrates us. And this can go back to the example of the toxic relative that you want to go no contact with.
Yeah.
It's that I want this person to stop being toxic. And because they can't stop being toxic, then that's the frustration that you need to deal with, because that's the question that your therapist is going to ask. Why do you need them to be that way?
Yeah.
Now that's you coming to heal that wound. Why do you need them to be that way?
Makes sense. I think I think there's a lot of self, a lot of introspection that we need to do for ourselves, or even from the topic of the day, the fact that at the center of it all, your internal self, you need to have harmony within your internal self. And if there's disharmony between the internal and external, you need to identify the why, work on it, reconcile with it, and then, yeah, at least you will make peace with it, that to the extent that it will not have a domino effect to all your other actions. Yeah. I think another key learning is kitchen sinking is to your detriment. It just tells or just shows that there's a lot of unreconciled emotions and feelings that have now constituted to this, blow up that is bound to happen. So reconciling those items, I think, is key. When it comes to the topic of the day, the two first aid tips that you provided, be the first emotional responder, and then sweat the small stuff, but proportionately as possible. I think that is something that we all need to appreciate. And yes, it now makes a lot of sense why we behave the way we behave, or situations blow up in the manner that they do. But I think if we were to go even deeper with this discussion, I think one, we would digress, but most importantly, I think we would need to come up with another topic, another day for us to have that conversation. So, Daktari, thank you so much for this. It is very eye opening. The fact that we are in this festive season, we all need to show up. We are all showing up differently. And the key to us, regardless of whichever divide you fall at, it's how you are internally. I think that for me is the key takeaway. How you are internally will determine the output that you're going to give. Doc, any parting shots?
I think I've said them. The first
Cool.
responder, and yeah, the one that I'll repeat and emphasize on a lot is sweat the small stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I
all just small
agree.
stuff.
Because when you fail to sweat the small stuff, they become big stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's no longer manageable. All right. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for having me.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone who joined us live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn. This is the last episode of season 2, Unplugged with Ross. And tonight's topic was Authentically, Festive or Not, Permission to Feel as You Are. Thank you very much for joining us. Daktari, I cannot thank you enough. And hopefully I will have you again sometime and we can totally have another discussion, and you can enlighten us on how we can build a robust mental fortress for ourselves and how we can check ourselves and how we are doing life. Everyone, have a lovely evening, and I will see you in the new year on episode 3 for Unplugged with Ross. Good night, and thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Bye.